how is gun control racist?
Okay, like let's go to the Civil War, then we'll work backwards. In the secession letters, most of the states in the South were very like, no, we're agreeing to secede. A lot of them were like, for this particular institution, this peculiar institution of ours. And they were talking about slavery. We want to keep getting money off of slavery. A lot of the Southern states, and I want to be very clear, this is not a hero worship of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln wanted to overextend the federal government. But he packaged how the South wanted to use slavery to hold on to it because it was a business. He packaged that as the South are all evil and not saying, hey, I want to extend federal government. My point in saying that is that peculiar institution was a part of an institution of slavery. And the way that that was maintained was we do not let Negro, at that time meant indigenous people, Indians, so-called Indians, and black people, they do not have the right to keep and bear arms. Now, mind you, we rewind it a bit. You got Plymouth, you got Virginia. Those slave codes, those black codes were specifically, even before that Constitution was ratified and all of that, it was specifically in state constitutions, every able-bodied white man, like Tennessee changed their constitution and added every able-bodied white man can have firearms, but not like black folks. There's a great book called Negroes and a Gun by Nicholas Johnson that gives an amazing historical perspective on this. But my point in saying that is, it was like, hey, we're free from, or a little bit free from King George and all that other good stuff. We got this thing going on. We got this institution. One, we want to have the means to defend ourselves from criminals and the government. But at the same time, we do not want uprising. So we got to make rules specifically for these people. And it just changed. Racism and that form of racism is very smart. If it's like a fashion faux pas as you speed up, right? So because someone would say, well, that was then. How about now?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the same thing can be said. Minimum wage laws were explicitly racist.
100%.
In the North, post-Reconstruction. Black workers coming north, competing for wages. Union laborers, the union movement was like, we don't want these black people competing for our jobs. And then it's that simple. It's
like in black and fact. White. And so when you say that, and then it becomes a system, then when extreme leftists go, everything is systemically racist, they're kind of, they got the right point on certain issues, but they're using it for trivial things. But with gun control, it just morphed. So we can't say, we don't want you blacks to have guns, which it very well did say that in a lot of state constitutions. But then it became, okay, it's a fashion faux pas to say it this way. Now let's do like fees. Like, okay, if you go to the National Firearms Act, like to get the price of a suppressor, like pretty much has like a tax stamp, has not changed since its inception. Back then in its inception, absolutely no black people were going to pay that price for the tax stamp. We can price you out and we can say it's not racism. California right now, it's a state license. The state of California gives you a license to carry. If you are applying for a license to carry in Compton, Oakland, predominantly black neighborhoods, the issuance rate is very low. Like, no, you might as well say, no, you're not going to get it. But if you go to Brentwood, you go to Beverly Hills, affluent, more politically connected neighborhoods, the issuance rate is higher. And ironically, the areas where there's less crime, where you may not need a gun as much as the area where there's high crime, they issue those licenses more. The skill set is for racism to be very smart. Michelle Alexander wrote a book called The New Jim Crow. It's a really good book. Now, some of these people I'm referencing are more left-leaning, but they're Americans. They get it right sometimes, get it wrong sometimes. The point here is she made the statement about how racism in that form is intelligent because when it's no longer socially acceptable, you just figure out a different way to do it and you just don't call it that thing. There's another great book called The Color of Law that talked about this with redlining. Banks were like, hey, we'll finance your suburban enclave, but you cannot like lease or sell any of this suburban enclave to black people. One of the biggest forms of generational wealth is home ownership. So if you don't know that history and now you're just showing up and they're like, oh, no, they just didn't do it. It's like these were things that were there specifically to impact. When we're going back to the gun thing, they just changed the naming of it now. So they'll go, OK, we got to have fees in this community. Like we as the government are going to license you to attempt to price you out or put all of these different hurdles for you to jump over and do it in the name of safety when it's really just a deterrent method because we didn't want you to have it anyway. And so even if they don't call you, we don't want you blacks to have guns, even if we weren't saying it like that right now. But if the outcome is
Strom Thurmond's dead, so we can't say that anymore.
Right. So it's like, our guys that would be easy to say that around, they're not here, so call it something else. I don't care what you call it. If the outcome is exactly the same, who is arrested for firearms possession, not shooting somebody, not whatever, more than any other group, black people in America. I mean, so it's like on one hand, it's like, oh, we're only 13% of the population, allegedly, right? And then it's like, oh, but all of the gun possession charges, like the vast majority of them are black and brown people.
What is that all about, actually? So if it's not for for possession, but not
You just had it. You just had it.
But I mean, like, what's your understanding of why that is happening? Because
we don't want. Can I cuss?
We might bleep it a little bit.
Okay.
But go ahead.
This is gonna sound harsh. We do not want you to have guns. We don't. A gun.
Who's we?
Racist formations or certain people. The lily white conservative movement from back in the day. The people that genuinely think that, and it's not. I understand it. If I was a supervillain, I wouldn't want you to have guns either. Guns and money is how America was made. So if I want to keep...
I mean, yeah, you're technically correct. It's like revolutions aren't fought with your fists.
And like feelings and articulate sentences. No, somebody getting shot.
There is some articulate sentences in the mix.
Backed up by people with guns. So if I want to control you, like, have you ever pointed at... Well, allegedly, you may or may have not pointed a gun at somebody. If you point a gun at somebody, like 5 people, they'll do pretty much what you tell them to do. But if there's one person with a gun out of that 5, the crowd responds a lot differently. So knowing that this is something that we as a nation, and I say we because the history of America is very diverse and contextual. So I'm not one of those like death to America flaming liberals that's like on their iPhone having Starbucks. I'm not that person. But I am going to say, bro, there are some wicked things that the United States government did. Mm-hmm. And so fast forward, we can't say or do it the same way. So we continue to do it primarily because since time immemorial, any group of people that has the means to defend themselves from tyranny, they aren't controlled for very long. So if I just came from fighting King George and them, and it's a contradiction because it wasn't in the Constitution. And I want to be very clear. Some of the founders actually were fighting against enslavement.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Some of the most important ones.
Right. And so,
I mean, even Thomas Jefferson had was a mixed bag.
His situation was wild. His situation was like, I kind of against it, but these guys are around and the women are really hot. So, and I
like that telling.
It's so messed up. It's so messed up. This episode.
I'm going to try to abolish it in the Virginia Constitution, but I've technically kind of raped my slave, so that's gross.
You never know. You never know out here. It's a mixed bag. It's a 50-50 roll with old Tommy Boy. My point in saying that is that type of layered contextual thing, I can evaluate it and say, yeah, bro, that was shit. That part right there was horrible. And then go, yo, his pen game and writing the declaration, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are the things that I go like, this is a contextual situation. I'm not moved by people's interpretation of what I think this history should be. I just go, yo, bro, this is what happened. Right, wrong, or indifferent. This is what happened. And then I go, since I know what happened, and just like other people, they know what happened. And they're also like, we do not want certain groups of people. Now it's just power, because we're talking about 248 years, something like that ago. Now you're talking about the power continuing to corrupt and expand. Once we've ran the play on the black people and we've made them the other first, we're just going to roll it out to y'all next. It's like white dudes right now that are like, hey, I just want to be like a straight white dude. And everybody's like, no, you will not be.
No, you're a white supremacist.
Right. And so
you're wearing a white t-shirt, so you might as well be.
Definitely are in the Klan. Right? But everybody in the hoods across America, black communities were like, first time. We kind of been telling you that the system was corrupt. The best example of it is on several levels is Trump. When all of these people in communities were like, the system is corrupt, it's targeting us unnecessarily. These are trumped up charges, pun intended, right? And everybody from certain communities were like, sure thing, dude. Just pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And we like, nah, the situation's a little wild. Fast forward and you look at Trump. They definitely giving him the black man treatment. Off top. We're charging you unnecessarily. Everybody knows it's a BS charge. Everybody know. And every time he's trying to maneuver out of a thing, that's why when people are like, oh, they're going to relate to, Trump's going to relate to the black community now because he's caught charges, as if we're highlighting the charges. No, we're saying we understand a system or factions of a system that's designed to be weaponized against you. And people go, that's bullshit. Why you're lying about that? Whether they like them or not. My point in saying that is all of these rollouts that are specifically targeted initially in black communities, it don't just stop there. They just get you to be like, yo, you know, it's the blacks. We got to get the guns out. They did with the Italians.
Oh yeah, no, that I mean, if you saw the movie Cabrini, it gives you a great picture of what it was. I mean, it's blacks, it's Italians, it's kind of everybody.
But initially, it's everybody. But then when everybody else is like, well, that ain't my problem, and then it's just making its rounds. So okay, it started with the black people with gun control. Then it's like, oh well, you know, it's slaves anyway, so it's not a big deal. Then it's the Italians, then it's other immigrants. Then it's, oh, you know, the Italians and their mafia. We got this fully automatic gun thing, the Tommy guns. The point in saying this is, it is systemically and has been systemically targeting certain groups, but not for just because we hate the blacks. It's, we're going to use this as the test market because America historically made the black people the other. And then it just rolls the other out to the other. It's kind of like, remember after 9/11, like for like a week, it was like peaceful.
Oh yeah, I was in New York for 9/11, so it was really intense. I mean, it was there's never been anything quite like that moment in my adult life.
Then like after that week, it was like, it's the Muslims. It was like people that weren't even Muslim that just had like an Arab like sounding name.
Yeah, you go to Sikhs that have a turban. It's like, oh, it's you.
You did this. It's like, well, if I did this, I would have been on a plane. So I didn't clearly do this. My point in saying that is, when you're in a position where you want to control people, you always have to find the other. And if the other groups okay that, if I'm government, cool, now we're just going to run through a different other. And before you know it, I, as government, have control over all of you because you were the other to me as government the whole time. Gun control is the top tier Hall of Fame best example of that. And because like right now, if I'm defending white dudes like, yo, bro, he not racist because he white. Like, cool out. It looks like I'm tap dancing for white dudes. And I'm just like, no, I just don't want that to happen to the so-called other, because when the pendulums swing the other way, them chances go round. And most people don't have the principle or intellectual consistency to, in that moment, when the other isn't them, to be involved because they don't see those chances coming around. But history shows us it does it all the time.
If you like this clip, you should check out the full video and all the other great content we've got at Dad Saves America. So be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss our new stuff as it drops each week.